All right, now that all your equipment is set up, this process is actually fairly simple. This is probably the most simple process of the whole process. So what you want to do once your drums are all plugged in or your audio interface is all set up, all your mics and everything are set up, is make sure that the R and the I are highlighted here. So what this means is that R, your recording is armed. When you're ready to record, it will start to record, and the I is input monitoring, meaning you can hear yourself while you're playing. So to make sure that you can hear yourself, you want to click again, highlight the track that you want, tap return, and press the R button on your keyboard. What you'll get is a 1 measure count in where the playhead will go off the screen in front of the grid. You'll get a measure of metronome by default, and then your count in on your groove will start, assuming you're using one of these free drum loops here. If you're not, the metronome that we set up in our click track earlier in this process will be your count in. This is a good reason to go back and do that process. And as the song plays, of course, you'll have listened to this song quite a few times by now and have an idea of what you want to play, but you'll just go through and record and make sure that you get a good take. If you don't, just simply stop the recording by pressing the space bar. The track will be automatically highlighted. You can just hit delete, hit return on your keyboard again, tap R, and keep doing this process until you get a take that you're happy with. Now, it's important to remember while you're doing this, Instagram only allows you to upload 1 minute of continuous video. If you're doing a YouTube drum cover, you can of course go as long as you want, but it's good to maybe have an idea in mind. Maybe you can go to the middle of a song, which is something that I do quite often, rather than starting right from the very beginning. But you can go to the middle of the song and record that, and then chop down the parts that you want to fit into your 1 minute Instagram video. Again, this process will be largely the same whether you're using an electronic drum set or recording acoustic drums. And of course, we've gone over those differences in the setup part of the process. The only difference is really how you manage your audio track or your MIDI track, depending on whether you recorded acoustic drums or electronic drums, respectively. Okay, now that we've finished recording our drums, we're in the final steps of the recording process. This section will cover fixing minor mistakes in the MIDI, as well as adding plugins to the sound and balancing the sound to get the best possible product for Instagram or YouTube. So the most common problem that I get in recording electronic drums is either a note not registering, so like an open hi-hat or just any hi-hat for that matter, or I'll get extra little ghost taps, usually on the bass drum, that I don't want in the final product. So I've intentionally gone back and recorded this version a little bit more sloppy so I can show you some of the things we don't want to do in fixing our audio. So what you want to do is double tap on the MIDI here. And you can see it brings it up in the bottom of the screen. I can zoom in using my horizontal zoom here and scroll around to find exactly the spots. Now most of these notes look pretty close to how we want them on the track. You can see them on the grid. They line up pretty well, but some of these don't line up so well. The temptation will be to just click and drag these notes into the right spot, but once you start doing that, the camera video will no longer line up with the audio. So please don't do that. Please just go back and record a better take that you're happy with. But what we can do, I don't have any open hi-hat notes in here, so I can't really show that. But what we can do is look at one of these where I've got an extra little ghost tap on the bass drum that registers at a very low velocity. You can see it's blue here, which means that it's very quiet. And I can just tap on that and press delete on the keyboard just to get rid of those extra little notes that I didn't intend to record that wouldn't really be picked up on recording an acoustic set, but it's just one of the dangers that comes with recording on an electronic set. Now that we've gotten our MIDI edited to take out any minor errors that we may have done, now I'll go through and show you how we can improve this drum sound drastically. So what you'll want to do is go down to where it says Producer Kits, tap there, and then press Bluebird Plus. Now what this will do is open up a new version of this drum set where we have a lot more control. What you want to do is expand this area here. And this will give us access to the mini tracks within this track stack. So what you'll do is tap on the overheads and then tap where it has the drum kit that we're using. In this menu, what you'll be able to do is swap out all these sounds for better cymbals, better snare, better toms. You can adjust the tuning the level of each of these, and you have so much control over what you're able to do. In GarageBand, you actually can do quite a bit of this. You won't be able to do the exact extent where you mix and match sounds, but you will be able to control the balance of the drum set and be able to do that. And you'll still have quite a bit of control over the sound that you're getting, just not quite as much as you are in Logic, where you can mix and match cymbals, drums, bass drums, toms, snare, everything like that. Here is what the screen looks like in GarageBand. If you don't have these controls on the bottom of the screen here, just tap the B key on your keyboard and it will bring these up. And lastly, what we'll want to do is add some plugins. Now, before you do this, you may want to balance the song a little bit. Just click and drag down just to where you get a nice balance. I usually like to have the drums a little bit more out front. Now, remember earlier in the video, I said we're going to be using some tricks to kind of deceive our audience into making it think that this sounds better than it actually does, especially for Instagram. So you can actually get away with having your drums a little bit quieter in the mix because the video that they're perceiving alongside the audio will clue them in onto what we're doing a little bit more. So the drums don't have to be incredibly loud compared to the audio, the music audio that we've added, but they should be a little bit louder to where they're out front, especially if you're recording a cover of a song that already has drums, in which case you want your drums to be even more in front, but the video will also carry some of that weight in kind of deceiving the audience so that they see what they hear and hear what they see, if that makes sense. Now, I will be sort of addressing what plugins I use. If you need to know these in greater detail, I may make an audio software tutorial where I go into greater detail to explain what all these plugins do and how to use them. For now, at the sake of keeping this video to a manageable length, I'll only be flashing my settings that I use on my preset kit that I've made a long time ago, and briefly explaining what these do. So equalizer. Pretty much everybody knows what an equalizer does. This just gives us access to getting different frequencies to be louder than others. Here's the equalizer that I like to use. Compressor, this is a great tool for using on acoustic drums and MIDI drums alike, but this will be the biggest change in sound that you find on your acoustic drum set. So what the compressor basically does is it gives us a way to make the loud parts louder. What these are called, the peaks in the audio are called transients. So what we want to do is use the compressor to make the transients even louder so that our bass drum and our snare drum pop out more than the cymbals, and it makes it sound a little bit less washy. That's one way that we can use compressor in a nutshell. This is a very versatile tool, and I encourage you to look into using compressor to make your audio sound exactly how you want it. On top of that, I got multipressor, which just compresses various frequencies within the audio, and then a limiter, which takes everything and pushes it to its limit, basically, which keeps the audio from being so loud that it distorts. So if you can imagine like bad Minecraft audio or the old days of like MLG audio where everything's bass boosted and distorted, this will stand in the way of our drum set sounding like that. It simply allows us to make the audio louder without making it too loud to where it distorts and does what we call clipping. As for the track audio, this does not need nearly as much processing. Really, all you need to do is balance it, and then we'll go into the master bus where we can add the last few effects that we need to make this sound good on Instagram or YouTube. All right, on our master bus, the only two effects that I really add, the only two plugins, are adaptive limiter and equalize. So whether you intend to post this on Instagram or YouTube will determine how you choose to equalize this. For Instagram, I like to cut out a lot of the lows and add some extra highs in so that the video is perceived to be louder than it actually is. If you listen to this with headphones, this will sound like garbage. This will sound awful. Nobody will want to listen to it. But since our phone speakers don't pick up this audio very well, we can kind of get away with doing a bit worse of a job in equalizing just to get a better product that suits the medium that people will be consuming it on. So you can get a good sense of this by only using your laptop speakers to edit this, because in reality, that's what people are going to be listening on. They're these crappy little speakers in their laptops or their phones. I don't know who scrolls on Instagram on their laptop, but you kind of get the idea. This also goes for posting on Facebook, anywhere where people don't typically watch video with headphones or watch on like a big speaker system, something like that. Now, if you're on YouTube, you won't want to cut as many of these lows and you won't want to add as many highs, because it is possible that people are listening with headphones, or that they're watching on their home TV or something like that, where they may have a sound system that they can actually hear what they want. I know anymore it is pretty common to watch YouTube on your phone, but still you want to have this option there to where people who are listening on headphones or a good sound system to have the best possible sound experience they can. And the last thing we add here is an adaptive limiter, which is essentially the same thing as a limiter. It just adds a few extra options that we can use to make this sound a little bit better overall that we can't get just using a limiter. In GarageBand, you'll go down here again, tap the B key if this is not appearing for you. Click this triangle here to expand where it says plugins, and go through exactly the same as you would in Logic to apply these plugins to your sound. Okay, now that the song is totally recorded, we're happy with the take that we got and everything is sounding good, we need to export this so that we can import it into our video editing software. In Logic, this is a very easy process. All we're going to do is drag the playhead over to the end of the cut that we want. We're going to tap to highlight the audio track with our free drumless loop, and then select Command T on the keyboard to trim it up to where we want. It will highlight the remainder of the track, and then we will tap Delete on the keyboard. Next, you're going to click back into your working window to make sure the correct area is highlighted. Press Command A on your keyboard and then Command B to bounce the song. From here, it will bring up an exporting window. Just look at the settings that I've got here. I'm going to leave them on the screen for a second so that you can see what settings to use. This just controls some of the details about how the song will be exported. There's really not too much to worry about in this screen. Just make sure that it matches with mine. And then you can select to export it wherever you want. I usually like to work from the desktop because it's a little bit quicker of a workflow, easier to clean up when you're done. And then we can move into iMovie to begin editing the video portion of this. Okay, now we're finally in the final step of getting this cover finished up. So I've got iMovie open here. I'm going to show you what it looks like to open up a new project like this. And from here, you're just going to drag in the audio from your drum cover as well as the camera video, and we're going to sync them up here. This is actually a pretty easy process. You're going to start by pressing the horizontal zoom here, get zoomed in nice and close to make sure that we can match these transients up. And from here, that's really all you have to do. Match them up and then delete any extra video or audio dangling off the end that you don't want. And then listen to the song, because for some reason, iMovie has a tendency to get a little bit of audio drift or video drift. One of the two of them are drifting. I think it's the video, in fact. But you'll just want to listen through to the end to make sure that that's not happening, especially on a longer drum cover, because it is something that tends to pop up. Just make sure that your audio and your video are all synced up exactly how you want it. You'll go to the top and select Share File. I usually like to go to the desktop so that it's easy to get back onto my phone. From here, the way I like to do this is just through AirDrop. I open up a new Finder window, go to AirDrop, find my phone, and then share that file onto my phone. And from there, it's just a matter of uploading to Instagram. And thank goodness we're finally done with this. All right, we're finally done with this process now that you've uploaded to Instagram. As you go along with this, as with almost anything you do on your computer, this will get faster and faster the more you work with it, the more times you've experienced this. So hopefully this isn't too much of a slog to get through the first time. It doesn't turn you off to this process so much anymore. I mean, you can get this whole process finished up in 5 minutes probably, not including the time that it takes you to record. But once everything's set up and you've kind of got a workflow figured out that you like, this should be a lot more of a breeze than this little hour-long project that we've gone through together here. Of course, this process will not be the exact same for everybody, depending on what software you use, what kind of equipment you have, and everything like that. But a lot of these tips will remain largely the same and should go beyond just working in Logic or working in GarageBand, FL Studio, whatever you happen to use. And hopefully you found at least a few of these tips useful. As always, anybody who's worked with me, anybody who asks me for advice on anything, I love to help and I love to share and teach what I've learned. and to make this process easier for anybody else who's interested. So if you have any questions whatsoever, feel free to reach out to me. If any part of this doesn't make sense, if it doesn't translate into what software you're working in, things like that, if you can't figure out your mic, something's not working, please just reach out to me. And I would love to answer those questions and make this process go as easily as possible for everybody who wants to do this. This is one of my great passions. Sharing these drum covers online has been so much fun for me throughout the years. And it's something that I want everybody else to be able to experience as well, assuming that's something you have an interest in.